God bless America.
There's a man standing on a stage in Texas. The crowd behind him is waving flags, red, white, and green, but not the flags of today's Iran. These are the old flags, the ones with a lion holding a sword, the flags of a government that ceased to exist 47 years ago. And the man at the podium is not a politician who won an election. He is not a general who fought a war. He is a 65-year-old man who left Iran when he was 17 years old. He has not been back since. His name is Reza Pahlavi. And in the spring of 2026, with Iran in open crisis, with missiles in the air, with a supreme leader dead, he may be the most talked about would-be leader of a country he hasn't seen in half a century. How did we get here? And who, exactly, is doing the talking? To understand Reza Pahlavi, you need to understand what Iran looked like before 1979. Iran in the 1970s was one of the wealthiest countries in the Middle East. Oil revenues were pouring in. Tehran had modern highways and universities. The Shah, Reza's father, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, had pushed the economy through what he called the White Revolution, a program of rapid industrialization and modernization. Real GDP per capita nearly tripled between 1950 and 1979. But underneath that growth was a different reality. A secret police force called Savak, thousands of political prisoners, and oil wealth so vast and so opaque that estimates of what the Shah personally controlled range from $1 billion to $20 billion. For several consecutive years in the 1970s, as much as $2 billion per year appeared to be missing from Iran's official oil accounting. The books were kept secret. Nobody could say definitively where the money went. By 1979, the pressure had become unbearable. Millions of Iranians filled the streets. The Shah left the country in January of that year, officially for medical treatment. He never went back. He died in exile in Cairo in 1980. His son Reza, 17 years old the year his father's government began to crack, was already in the United States. He'd been sent to Texas in 1978 for pilot training at Reese Air Force Base. When the revolution happened, he simply didn't go home. In 1980, after his father died, Reza Pahlavi declared himself Shah of Iran, from a house in exile. No army, no territory, just a name. For 4 decades, Pahlavi became a fixture of the Iranian diaspora. Satellite television, think tank speeches, books and conferences and press releases. He built a following. He raised money. He called repeatedly for regime change. And for 4 decades, the regime did not change. The Islamic Republic was still there. Khomeini was still the supreme leader. Iran was still Iran. And Reza Pahlavi was still outside Washington, D.C., waiting. Then, in the second half of 2025, everything changed at once. In October 2025, An Israeli newspaper called Haaretz published an investigation. Working with the Citizen Lab at the University of Toronto, a research center that tracks covert digital influence operations globally, they had found something unusual inside the Persian language internet. A network of fake social media accounts, profiles on X and Instagram, built to look like ordinary Iranian citizens. Their profile photos generated by artificial intelligence. Their purpose? Flooding social media with a single message. Reza Pahlavi is the future of Iran. The network used hashtags like #KingRezaPahlavi. It produced videos. One AI-generated video depicted Reza Pahlavi, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, and an Israeli cabinet minister walking together through the streets of a fictional, free Tehran. It received millions of views. But one specific detail in this investigation is worth sitting with carefully. On June 23, 2025, Israeli forces struck Tehran's Evin prison. Within minutes, at 11:52 in the morning, this network of fake accounts began posting about explosions in the prison area before any official media had confirmed the strike. Then they disseminated a fabricated, AI-generated video of the explosion. That video was picked up by international news outlets as authentic footage. Citizen Lab's assessment: the timing made it highly unlikely that any third party without advanced knowledge of the IDF's plans would have been able to prepare this content and post it in such a short window of time. 3 individuals with direct knowledge confirmed to Haaretz that the broader Pahlavi promotion campaign was connected to the Israeli cabinet and funded through a private entity receiving Israeli government support. Let's be precise about what this means and what it doesn't. Reza Pahlavi has not been personally implicated in directing this operation. What the investigation establishes is a foreign government covertly manufacturing the appearance of his popularity. And that raises a specific, uncomfortable question. If a significant part of his online following was fabricated by a foreign state actor, how do you separate the real signal from the engineered noise? Let's go back to the money, because it's part of the story. When the Shah left Iran in January 1979, he did not leave empty-handed. A 1979 Washington Post investigation described his personal fortune as staggering. Estimates placed what he directly controlled at a minimum of $1 billion, much of it in Swiss bank accounts. Some analysts placed the total Pahlavi family fortune at $20 billion or more. Much of this was held through something called the Pahlavi Foundation, nominally a charitable institution, but in practice, an opaque vehicle controlling vast real estate, corporate stakes, and financial assets. In 1979, a foundation official was asked directly to estimate the value of its holdings. His response became famous: "What is money?" Now here is what we can and cannot say about Reza Pahlavi's personal finances today. His net worth is unknown. There are no public financial disclosures. Newsweek's March 2026 analysis found no public accounting that would allow a definitive assessment. What we do know: he lives in a suburb of Washington, D.C. He has spoken at think tanks and on satellite television for 4 decades. He has written books and delivered speeches. He has positioned himself consistently as a Democrat, a man who believes the Iranian people should choose their own future through a free referendum. And yet, the primary visual imagery of his movement is the flag of a monarchy. The primary source of his political capital is a dynastic name he did nothing to earn. The primary backers amplifying his profile, as we have seen, include a foreign government running a covert operation. There's a tension in that which his advocates have never fully resolved. Here is where the story gets genuinely complicated, because despite the influence operation, despite the opacity around the family's money, despite the decades of political irrelevance, there is real documented support for Reza Pahlavi inside Iran, and it is significant enough that you can't just dismiss it. In 2022, an independent non-profit research institute called Grapevine surveyed 158,000 respondents inside Iran, using a VPN anonymized methodology that has been peer-reviewed, and asked them to rank candidates for a transitional solidarity council. Pahlavi came first, with 32.8% selecting him, the highest of any candidate. 70 to 80% of Iranians consistently say they would not vote for the Islamic Republic. And by January 2026, they had practical reasons. Food prices had risen 72% in a single year. The currency had collapsed. Hundreds of thousands were in the streets. Some of those protesters chanted Pahlavi's name. Verified footage showed it. His face appeared on signs. The US administration's own officials described themselves as surprised by the apparent organic nature of the chants. But here is what the most credible analysts say that support actually represents. Karim Sajadpour of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace told the Times of Israel that most of those protesters were born after the 1979 revolution. They have nostalgia for an era they never personally experienced, an era when Iran's economy was growing, when the country was connected to the world. They're not necessarily chanting for Reza Pahlavi the man. They're chanting for a version of Iran that exists in their parents' memories. And then there's what Trump said. In January 2026, asked directly whether Pahlavi could lead Iran. He seems very nice, but I don't know how he'd play within his own country. In March 2026, in the Oval Office, with Germany's chancellor watching, some people like him, and we haven't been thinking too much about that. It would seem to me that somebody from within, maybe, would be more appropriate. And in a classified briefing room in February 2026, when Israel's Prime Minister presented Trump with regime change scenarios that included Reza Pahlavi, CIA Director John Ratcliffe gave his assessment of those scenarios in one word: farcical. 47 years in exile, the most prominent name in Iranian opposition, and even his most powerful potential patrons aren't buying it. Think about what Reza Pahlavi's story actually reveals, structurally. Here is a man who commands the highest polling numbers of any opposition figure inside Iran, who draws larger diaspora crowds than anyone in the movement, who gives the most polished press conferences, who was just on the main stage at the largest conservative political gathering in the United States. And yet, he has not been inside Iran for 47 years. No organization he runs has documented operational presence inside the country. During the 2025 and 2026 protests, the largest unrest since the revolution itself, security forces did not defect, not once. Here is the dynamic his rise has exposed. In a moment of genuine, documented popular suffering, when 70% of Iranians say they want the regime gone, when the economy has collapsed, when a supreme leader has been killed, the figure who most benefits internationally is a man whose apparent online popularity was partly manufactured by a foreign government, whose family wealth came directly from the oil revenues of the country he claims to represent, whose most powerful potential patron said, publicly, he'd prefer someone who actually lives inside Iran. That's not a story about one man's failings. That's a story about how political legitimacy gets constructed and sold in the modern era. About who decides who gets to be the opposition. About what it means when a country's democratic future is being shaped in part by interests that have nothing to do with democracy inside that country. The people chanting his name in Tehran were born after the revolution. They've never lived under the monarchy their flags represent. They aren't chanting for a king. They're chanting for something that no longer exists. And what they actually get, if anything changes, is still being decided by people who are not them.